Hey, everybody, welcome to our next YPR Top 5. Today we have a special guest, Trevor he works over at Facebook. He is, let's see what we have for him. Put his screen up here. Maybe not, but that's fine. So we'll get right into it, guys. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to talk about our top 5 tips on how to find a fulfilling career. So I'm going to go ahead and Trevor, I'll bring you in here. Hello, Trevor. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Yeah, no problem. So so why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, take a couple minutes, tell us what you do, who you are, and all that good stuff.
Sure. First off, kudos for that video production. If that was you, Sean.
Yeah, a couple minutes earlier.
Spiffy stuff there. Hey, Trevor Longman here. If you all know Gunnar Lederman, one of my big buddies from high school. So thanks, Gunnar, for thinking about me to come and talk to this cool group here. Calling you from the West Coast, hashtag Best Coast, little jab there. In my garage where I am a small-time art collector. As you can see, I'm, given today's COVID age, making the best of what I got. I've got a couple kids, a 2 and a 6-year-old that want to decorate dad's office. So I'm trying to bring a little fun to my VC calls at work. I don't normally have a beard, but I haven't shaved now in 3 months. COVID again. So I'm seeing some life changes as we speak. But today I want to talk about finding a fulfilling career. I would say I've found a fulfilling career so far. I've been I kind of do a little backstory. So went to Amador High School with Gunnar way back in the day. Went to UC Davis, got a degree in computer science. From there, I lucked out. I got an internship at Hewlett Packard, one of the big companies over there in the Sacramento area of California. From there, I've been very intentional around what I've been doing with my career, and that's where we'll get to some of these tips today. But from Hewlett Packard, that was a big old company. I was just like a little intern there writing firmware. Real quick, I realized I'm just a little fly on the wall. I'd rather do something a little more practical or something where I'm a little more recognized with my efforts externally. So I got into software consulting, started working with a couple shops, web development and marketing shops in the Sacramento area. And from there, I started really working with clients, understanding business problems. How can I use technology to solve what they're trying to do, whether it's get a message out to their audience or come up with a cool web design or mobile app, cool idea they have. And from there, did that for a number of years, 4 or 5 years in Sacramento. And then kind of fun, my wife and I were expecting our first. She was 8 months pregnant. And we thought, hey, what's a good time to get a new job, move, and do all that. So in March of 2014, I got a role at Facebook. We sold our house in Sacramento in April, and then our daughter was born in May. So I don't recommend that. That is a lot to do. But ever since then, I've been at Facebook. I now have another child, as you can see, with us. And so that's been my career. And today I'm going to go over a few tips here to tell you how you too can maybe not do that necessarily, but how you can pull some of the pros out of what I did to hopefully find yourself your own kind of fulfilling career.
Awesome. Sounds good. I will have to agree with, I think this is Katie Miller here, the chair of our chamber board, who says that the third coast is the best coast.
I don't know about that, actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Find out. You all have a great day. Thanks, sir. I'm just
Great. Okay. So again, I want to send a shout out to Gunnar for connecting us with you. He brought you up in a meeting earlier in the month or last month, and we thought that would be a great fit. So let's go ahead and just get into it. So we're talking about, we're continuing our kind of top 5 format that we have here. Top 5 tips to finding a fulfilling career. So actually something just serendipitous earlier this week, I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about quarter life crises. And talking about millennials and Gen Z and everything and how it's kind of a little harder to work with them, or it can be if the management's not, adapting with the times and everything. And then something I thought that would go in really good with this talk, a quote that they had that, you have to love where you work and what you do, and everything else is just going to fall into line there. So if anyone does want to check out that podcast, it is the Token CEO. It's on all the big podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, everything. So check that one out from Tuesday. So Trevor, let's go ahead. We talked about it a little bit earlier. You gave me your bullet points on what we'd like to talk about. Let's go to number one, and that's identifying a career milestone and actively working towards it. So why don't you expand on that a little bit?
Totally. Yeah. I don't know where you got these tips from, though. Is this something? Totally kidding. I'm doing a stand-up comedy bit right now, so I would love to. Just kidding. Yeah, I got to say, it's although obvious, being intentional with what you want to do with your career is kind of the first and foremost. Where I work at Facebook, we're very much a strengths-based company. You're in charge of your own career. And that's really resonated with me. And I kind of think back at what decisions I made earlier. And I thought, wow, if I had kind of known some of this as I was kind of figuring out what I want to do, I graduated college, where am I going to spend my time? And so some tactics that I use here are, one's kind of obvious, but get to know people, ask questions. What's happening in the world where you think you can make an impact? Where can you help someone with a problem, or what gets you up on a Monday morning? Find what that kind of work is, and don't just think about it. Like, go and do it. What are the opportunities? Who are the employers that are tackling that sort of stuff? Kind of starting where I, in my career, when I was at UC Davis with a computer science degree, I kind of thought, okay, I want to be in computer science. I think that's where I want to go. I'm not sure yet. That's okay. Still be intentional. You want to the worst thing you can do is make a decision, not know if it was right or wrong. So if anything, pick something and start going with it. And the actively work towards it is really, once you make that decision, keep backing it up with micro decisions. So as an example, I was at Davis. I knew I wanted my first job in something to do with computer science. I just started talking to all my peers in my class. Hey, what do you do? What side jobs are you doing? Do you have a job? I mean, we're all looking for jobs out of college, and I figured someone here has got to have something. I remember I turned to a guy in one of my junior year classes. He and we had seen each other in classes, and I said, "Hey, what do you do? Can we work on a project together?" He's like, "Oh, actually, I work at Hewlett Packard. I've been doing this, and hey, I've actually been seeing your work. It's pretty good. Let's work on some projects together." Next thing I know, this guy offers me up for his own internship. He's leaving, and he says, "Hey, my hiring manager wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Fortunately, the interview I had that day earlier in class, we had gone over computer architecture. And so when I had my interview, I think the first question was what's in a CPU? And I was very fortunate that I actually had learned that day. And so, luck have it, I got that internship. But again, I knew I wanted a job. So I just started to talk to people. What can I do to start to get into that area? And so again, being very intentional and working towards it. And so from there, as my career's kind of progressed, I thought, okay, what's something else I want to try doing? So kind of, I mentioned earlier, I was at Hewlett Packard for a couple of years doing firmware. I would go to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and I'd say, "Honey, I just wrote some really cool firmware that manages the temperature of a financial server." She's like, "Okay, that's not very cool." I'm like, "Okay, I got to change that." Okay, glad, Sean, you came back and laughed at it. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And so that's where I then transitioned into, I want to be very intentional. I want to find something that's more customer facing, where I can actually see when I do some sort of software, someone's getting benefit out of it. And so that's where I got more into the software consulting. I worked for a small shop where they build custom websites. And I thought I could be that guy. I can have that conversation with the end clients. What are you looking for? You want a fancy homepage? You want a registration form? And I go for the next half of the day and just write the software myself, because I was a computer science engineer and I could do all this myself. So I think the tip here again is identify what you're going for and make the steps to work towards it. So one tactical thing I'll share on this kind of last tip is every 6 months, I go on LinkedIn. What's my future? What do I want to be? Is it the VP of product at a startup? Is it the head of marketing at a Fortune 500? I will go to those people's LinkedIn and see what roles did they have, or what skill sets did they acquire to get them there. So I imagine if I'm in the interview for that position, I can answer the question that they probably had to answer themselves of, what's your marketing experience? What's your B2B experience? How much have you spent in vendor support or working with sourcing or whatnot? And so again, knowing the steps where you want to go, identify that thing, and just actively work to getting there. So any question on that, I'm more than happy to answer, but that tips work pretty well. And it's probably the most important one. So.
Right. I mean, and that's key there too. It's like you're doing anything. If you're building, a grill or something, you need to know where you're going, right? So you have to see those milestones and know what you're doing. And that really does dovetail into the next one that you have. Number two, the reevaluating your strength and your passions constantly. We're not static individuals. We change a lot, throughout day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. It kind of goes back to, you're going to pick that first thing. I wanna be this software engineer, whatever it may be. And again, I'm going to use tech because that's where I am, but I'm sure this is very general to different careers and different paths. I want to just be a software engineer at a big company. I quickly learned I got bored of it. I just didn't want to be, again, yet another just dot on the wall. I wanted to go off and do different things. So again, reevaluate what gets you up in the morning. If you're sitting there on Sunday night and you're thinking, okay, I'm not excited for Monday morning. Like, I'm just not thrilled. Why is that? Is it the work you're doing? Is it the people you work with? We'll go into a little some of this later, but reevaluate this. Is it if you're in accounting and you finally realize I do not like numbers, let's reevaluate. What do you like doing? Let's go pivot our career to something a little different. And again, identify what that is and work towards it. I see a lot of people that just kind of get complacent, and quick tangent. I'm a people manager now. I now actually help coach people on my team, help them literally find their own fulfilling careers. And this is at a more of a micro level of, okay, what projects are you more excited about? And very often people are just either worried to take that chance or they just don't know if they can. Speak up. What do you want to do? Let's get you there. I mean, it's your career. You have the decisions around what you want to work on and why you want to do it. And so I just encourage everyone to really take that time on a constant basis, almost roadmap. Where are you trying to go? For me, kind of that LinkedIn exercise is like an almost every 6-month thing where I kind of think, okay, where am I headed? What am I trying to do? But you should definitely take the time to rethink this. It's super important to stay on top of this.
Right. And, like you were saying, just take those, put it out there. There's a lot of times that, I'm on the marketing side. So trying to figure out if we can do a certain project, and sometimes it's budget. Sometimes do we actually have the people or the skills to do it? And the worst thing that's going to happen is you get a no, right? So there's two answers to most questions, yes or no. And if the worst is a no, then, just go for it. You can handle that no pretty easily.
Totally.
So real quick, everybody, if you're watching, go ahead, share this on your page, please, if you don't mind. If you have questions, go ahead and comment, here in the comments, and we'll see them and we can put them up here on the screen. Definitely, Trevor, share it on Facebook where you're watching it. So help you out there.
Thanks.
So we'll move on to tip number 3. And that is find a company or an organization that you believe in the mission, the product, the leadership. And this is something I believe in big time. You have to love where you work. You have to love the people you work with and what the organization is doing.
Absolutely. John, if you actually want to take this one, probably partner this one. But yeah, a lot of people I feel, when I look out there, they just, it's one thing to go to work and get the paycheck. I get it. Like, that's how our society works. You gotta put in the time to have your living. But how cool is it if you actually go to work and you think you're actually doing something that helps society, or you're doing something that you personally have a vested interest in? I was a huge Facebook user, fun fact, as probably a lot of us are. And so when I had the opportunity, again, at a friend, he said, hey, I got a job at Facebook. I don't know why you're still in Sacramento. You need to come join this company as quickly as possible. I thought, I never thought I could work at Facebook, but if you think I can, I love the product. Let's do this thing. So I can tell you, just knowing that, I am part of something that helps connect, what is it latest, like 2.4 billion people on this planet. Like, whoa. Like, so a little about my own role is I help manage our marketing website. So I won't go into too much detail, but I manage the engineering team that looks over all of our B2B interface, or our B2B website. And so knowing that the code I'm writing is literally like being looked at or reflected by millions of people in the world is like, that's pretty cool. And I believe our platform can help folks market their organizations, Facebook pages, ads, whatever, Instagram. And so just working for a company that I feel like it's actually bettering the world to some extent, like, sign me up. The other thing is, again, about the mission of the leadership. I have definitely my own role. I have followed people that I believed in. So when I went from Hewlett Packard to my first software consulting company, someone left the company, and it was actually their company they started. And I thought, hey, I really liked how that person led the organization. I want to work for that person. And so when they made the transition, I thought, yep, I'm going over there. I'm going to give it a shot. I kind of wanted to do that software consulting thing anyway. So definitely finding the career or the jobs where you believe also in the leadership, I think is super important. And there's generally a strong tie between a good leadership and a good mission-based company. And so those don't too far apart, but really take the time to think about this. What do you believe in? What's, again, going to get you up on that Monday morning and you feel like you're actually making an impact in the world?
Right. And I mean, I'll just tack on to that. If you're waking up every day and you're dreading going to your job, just quit now. Find something that you will be happy to wake up for, and go to, because it's just not worth it if you're not. You got to be somewhat happy. That other podcast I was listening to, they were talking about how Gen Z, there's a little bit of a shift in their work that, yeah, they want to believe in the mission and everything of the company, but that the work isn't everything for them, that it, some of them, half of them is what they were saying is they just don't care what the mission is. They need to make their money. That's why they're there, the paycheck. But, I see as they grow older a little bit that should shift a little bit, because I just can't see a whole generation, going to work just for the paycheck and that's it. You have to have some joy in what you're doing.
Totally.
Sure.
Totally agree.
So, and that one goes into our next one, join a team where you can be your authentic self, and I think a good point you had here, especially with your manager, the person that you're reporting directly to.
Yeah, I think one of the quotes that always stands out here is people don't leave companies, they leave managers. Your relationship with your boss, your manager, is one of the most important. And I fortunately have had more good managers than bad managers. But hey, I'm in a garage surrounded by artwork. Like, what sort of work style can I have? And my manager says, I don't see any new artwork. Can you get more up there? It's like, okay, they don't just realize that I'm working from home and understand, but they understand that I'm trying to support a family here. I'm trying to still do my day job with kids running in and out and all that kind of stuff. So, there's some manager behaviors that I always look for. Like, the first one that's always important is showing care. Do they actually respect me as a person? I mean, this should go without saying, but do they understand where I'm coming from, how I approach problems? When I speak up, why am I doing it? I've had managers that have different styles. We can go into accountability and discipline and finding something that jives with you. As a parent myself, I got to discipline my kids in a certain way. I'm not saying bosses do the same thing, but how does a boss or a manager and the IC, the individual contributor is what we call them, how do they work together and get through, ups and downs? It's so important to have that relationship figured out. I got to say, the work throughout my career, the jobs where I felt like I've done my best work, every single time, my manager was almost a friend. There's a couple times where I'm still very close friends to my previous managers just because we kicked it off so well. I just can't stress how important it is. And so where you can actually show up however you are, whatever your work style is, like, make sure you've got that team around you or that manager that truly supports you. And if not, kind of like if you're not happy on a Monday, it's time to pack up. And so one last thing I would say on this is when you're interviewing, everyone always gets dreaded. Like, is the company going to like me? Am I answering the questions correctly? Flip that around. Do you like the company? Are they answering your questions correctly? I always think it's silly when they leave you 5 minutes at the end to ask your questions or whatever it may be. Like, how about we allow you to ask more? Like, what is the work culture like? Hey, when there's a problem on the team, how do you resolve this? Where do you see, team stepping up? How do you prioritize? Am I going to be overworked because no one knows how to prioritize in the company? A lot of these questions, I think, you kind of assume they're going to give the right answer, or you may not ask it, but heck, this is your job. Like, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, not just the employer know what they're hiring when they pick you up to work for them. So anyway, hopefully that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That makes me remember one time I was on an interview, and, how the management interacts with the employees is very important to me. And I asked, I was like, hey, so if there's a conflict, and I believe it's one way and you believe it's the other way, how do we figure this out? And they were just like, well, it's my way. I'm like, that's a red flag. They're granted, them being the boss. Yes, of course, final say. But if they're not even open to that conversation, to being swayed, then for me, that's just not an environment that I want to be in. Totally. And like you said, when you started, people quit the management. They don't quit, or they quit the person. They don't quit the
company. Yeah.
And that's something that I've had myself personally, so for real, that you got to, like your manager, you got to be able to communicate with them, and I think for us too, our age group, we are used to kind of our parents and grandparents who is just like, okay, yeah, the boss, mean guy, don't like him, whatever. Right. And it's really not that way. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't have been that way then. You've got to have some sort of a relationship with them to where they understand. And like you said, they don't see any new artwork. What's up with that? Because, if they're noticing those little things, then maybe there isn't something right at home, and maybe you do need to take a break, or, just someone to talk to about it would help. So, having that relationship is huge.
Absolutely. Maverick, are you giving this talk next week? I'll probably chime in and listen to your story here. Sounds like you got a lot of this figured out yourself there, Sean. So.
All right. So we'll move on to number 5 here. And this is one of my favorites too. Don't be afraid to take risks. Always makes me think of Magic School Bus, Miss Frizzle. Make mistakes, get messy.
Yeah. Yeah, it speaks for itself. I think I was trying to be kind of Shakespearean here at the end and keep it straightforward. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people I think just sit there and think, you know what, status quo, it's fine. I'm okay. It's going to be fine. I get my paycheck, or the work I'm doing is fine. It's not revolutionary. All right, well, why not? Like, do you want to be fired up and enjoy? Like, take that risk. I've had. I'm actually I'm actually very risk adverse. I hate taking risk, and so I've actually had to push myself to. Again, I had no thought of ever moving, having a family, and getting a new job in the course of 3 months. But hey, at the time, I thought, I'm young, I can do this. Like, I think it's the best step. My wife and I both being engineers, like, we're very methodical and what are the pros and cons. And when you pull the trigger, commit. Like, let's do this thing. And so on the flip side, if I'd stayed where I was, who knows? Like, I feel like I wouldn't have had as a fulfilling a career. I probably wouldn't have learned what I have, probably wouldn't have been in the role I was. And so, I think all this stems from speak up, reach out, make that decision, and just go with it. I'll kind of circle back to something I said at the very beginning is, I think the worst thing you can do when you make one of these decisions is not know if it was right or wrong. It is totally fine if you make a wrong decision. You now know that was a bad decision, and you will not make that decision again. So now what's the next decision you make? And you're going to hopefully make a right one. But the worst thing you do is just not even take the risk or make the decision. Like, take that time, like, do your homework, but let's do it. Like, let's figure that out and take that step. So I think that kind of summarizes everything a little bit. Is just to, again, like, just jump in. If you're not feeling right, if you're not excited about what's going on, or you don't know what you're going to do, like, start with something and we'll iterate from there. Right. So yeah, that's how I would kind of, my fifth tip there.
Yeah. I mean, taking risks, that's, I'm all about that. It goes back to the, you have two answers, yes or no, right? So you just go for it. You're going to make mistakes. Nobody bats 1,000. So, you've got to be able to be okay with those mistakes too, understand, you could take a left turn or a right turn. You may get there in the longer way. You may take the wrong turn, but you'll still get there. You'll still get to where you're supposed to be going.
Maybe there was a vista point you would have seen had you gone the wrong way. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a new lesson to learn there.
Totally.
So, that covers those 5 points. I think it would be a little, it's kind of my duty here since you're with Facebook here, to talk to you a little bit about some digital marketing trends. Anything that you see coming, not necessarily Facebook, maybe across the other platforms too, whatever you can talk about.
I would just say in general, where do you all spend your time? I'm also speaking from a demographic where I'm on the West Coast. Probably, I imagine we're all similar aged here, tech savvy folks, and understand, have our mobile phone, hopefully. I go to Facebook, Instagram, or whatnot, New York Times on my phone. I'm not spending much time watching cable television. I'm not reading the newspaper per se. And so if you think about that as your own personal user or your own personal journey, like, where then, if you're working for a company that's doing marketing, where should you be targeting your demographic? And so I think one thing I would just say is, if you look at where, ad dollars in the US are, digital is still far behind. It's still kind of an untapped area. And so when you have things like, when you think of where to spend your marketing dollar, knowing that you're spending the right dollar on the right time is obviously crucial. And so ensuring attribution is always a part of your marketing plan. This is something that I have to focus on as I develop websites, is how do we know if we spend time on a feature is actually going to be worthwhile for the company? Is it actually going to have an ROI? Simply shooting from the hip, yep, it's a risk, but you don't know if that was right or wrong. Hey, great, we got 100 million in sales. I'm making this up, but do you know what got you that 100 million in sales? Like, better figure it out if you don't, because you may start readjusting your budget, not knowing exactly what was most effective. So I guess the trend here I would say is be smart with your marketing dollars, and digital I think is still something that's kind of untapped, and I think a lot of folks still maybe don't know or haven't found the right person or agency to help them kind of with their digital marketing. So something I encourage everyone to chat about. More than happy, which I don't know if you're gonna flash my LinkedIn, but more than happy to talk around things around. Oh, there we go. Boom. Sean's on this right now. Chatting around, if you have questions around this little chit chat I gave, or even around, hey, I'm trying to run Facebook ads or something like this, more than happy to help out. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Facebook ads expert, but I do work for digital marketing at Facebook, so can totally help to some extent with you all figuring that out. Look at this.
Not sure if you could answer this question, if this is in your wheelhouse there, but from Jeffrey, the biggest tip for new users to fully take advantage of the Facebook platform.
Sure. Let's see. For newer users and advanced, and bless my calendar. Okay, Jeffrey. Not everyone gets. We test on a rolling basis. It'll eventually make its way to 100%. Again, I would strongly suggest as you spend money on the Facebook platform, really ensuring that it's getting conversions. I think, page likes were something that we pushed for back in the day. I think nowadays we're saying, how do you ensure things like mobile app attribution, or, for every $2 you spend on a mobile app install, someone's actually installing the app. So choosing the right campaign objective. I'm getting kind of in the weeds here, but whether it be app install or website conversion compared to things like brand awareness or other things, like make sure if you're a DR advertiser, you're actually focused on results and not just spray and pray. Put in my hundreds of dollars and hope that people see this video or like a post. I don't know of any board of directors at any company that favors likes over dollars. So I would strongly encourage you to focus on the dollars as opposed to like the Facebook likes. So now there's some correlation, right? More engagement, folks that are more attentive for sure. Let's start with like the more rigorous objectives, and then the other stuff will kind of pan its way out. So.
Cool. Our next question here from Facebook, it's, what are you currently reading, listening to? That's something our people, they really like to, we started a little library. It's a little doc sheet that we have. What are you reading or listening to?
So new people manager as of this year. COVID kind of interrupted that a little bit. And so I'm having to have these relationships with folks over VC for the last 3 or 4 months, but really sharpening how to be a supportive people manager, how to be there for my team and whatnot. So a book that actually was written by a Facebook VP, Julie Zhao, called Making a Manager, I think is what it's called. Actually didn't look much of the title, but I know the book. Great. It speaks to me directly because she also talks about how it is to be a manager at Facebook. And so that's what I'm currently in the middle of. Outside of that, I tend to read or listen. Okay, so fantasy football. Who knows what we're going to do this season, but I'm doing Fantasy Football Today podcast right now on my runs. Trying to get the latest on what's happening there. And then outside of that, what's the, oh my gosh, what's like the serial podcasts, all like the, yeah. So those are like my instead of watching something on TV, Netflix, like I'll throw that in as well. If I'm going to have a bad fantasy season, I'll jump to that instead. So, but yeah, really the people manager book right now is probably the one most relevant to this group. This one I'm currently in. Just how to better myself. Again, back to taking risks or identifying a career milestone. I won't know what opportunities there are unless I hear from other people and what they've done or experiences they've gone through. And so maybe just like today, someone will find some bit of insight and kind of steer their career in another direction. I'm doing the same thing. Who are the people I look up to? I think Gary Vee one was someone that you talked about earlier on. Great guy. Oh my gosh, this guy, it just plays it real. So what can I take from what he's saying and maybe pivot my career a little bit to see, maybe I go a little more risky. And he's all about like, do that startup, do that side gig so you can also like do your own thing. So who knows? Maybe I hear more of him. I'm like, I'm finally ready to take that jump. So always trying to expose myself to what's happening in the world or leaders that I look up to and maybe pivot my own career. So
cool, great. One question I had while you were talking, what would you think is the most underutilized tool that the user can use for Facebook? So you have your groups, you have your the ad center,
ads manager.
Yeah, sorry.
For sure. Oh gosh, underutilized. Finding a Facebook expert, someone that actually knows it. I guess I see a lot of folks that say I paid my nephew who knows Facebook and they ran my Facebook ads. Like, okay,
no.
I don't know if you can spend some time finding an actual expert. I think, for example, our own company pitches folks like Facebook marketing partners or Facebook marketing experts, consultants, folks that we have almost certified that they know Facebook ads. If I was a company, I would tend to trust an expert like that. And so instead of saying which feature isn't well known, it all varies depending on like, are you a DR advertiser, brand advertiser? What region are you in the world? What's the demographics you're trying to target? And so instead of saying which product, I would say like find an expert, have them help you make that decision on probably the most underutilized Facebook product for your marketing efforts.
Great. All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. Trevor, did you have any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to plug or have going on? in your life?
Yeah, I don't see your artwork being very 10-month-old friendly back there, Sean. So if you could work on that before next time, I would greatly appreciate that.
I will.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I really hope people got something out of this. I made up everything I just said for the last 30 minutes, so believe nothing. Totally kidding. I tried to put some thought into it. But yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. More than happy to keep that conversation going. But yeah, thanks for having me, and I hope the San Francisco Giants win the World Series this year on a shortened season.
Well, up here we're hoping for the Rangers, so
doesn't seem very cool. I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah, all good.
But yeah, Trevor, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and for preparing for this. I know it wasn't easy. You know, it does take some time. So thank you very much. And thank you again to Gunnar for connecting us with you, providing some value to our members. So again, everybody, if you've been watching, I really encourage you share it on Facebook. Share it with your network, because that's how we get the word out about YPR more. You know, we're trying to provide some value to you, that since we can't be in person right now. So go Rangers. Just
okay.
Like
are you picking these, Sean? This isn't cool. Now you have me back, so I'm just giving you a hard time.
But yeah, so thank you everyone for tuning in. Like I said, make sure to share this with your platform, and we'll see you on the next broadcast.